What's going on, people? So, got a couple shoes here that I'm gonna do all together, just as like the one review, right? So instead of doing like the two separate ones, since this is really just about like the material differences or whatever, I just didn't really see much sense in doing them separately. So just gonna consolidate it all here, right? So first off, right, side of the box down there on this one that's closer to me, I'll give you a little bit of some pictures and all that normal stuff, right? So this one right here, this is going to be the Brooks Ghost 16 Weatherized, right? In country blue, much like the shoe I talked about seconds ago. So that's what this one is, right? And so just giving you real quick some the normal introduction pictures and whatnot that I gave you. So across the bottom, what you're looking at down there is like going to be like, you know, a different sort of outsole than you would normally get, because again, this is like one that's built for elements. So it's going to have a slightly different design for more traction and all that good stuff. Midsole wise, everything up there is looking kind of the same, right? I do kind of like how they have these little dots in there, because it makes me think like if you're running through like rain or something, and that just kind of fits the idea of what the shoe is to an extent. The other one's more for the rain, but you know what I'm saying. And then a couple other shots, just like the normal top-down type angles and whatnot, so you can kind of see these from like a slightly different vantage point, I guess you could say, just to kind of get your mind around what all is really going on with them, right? Because I think they do look really cool. So, but that's just me, you know. If your opinion is different, that's cool. We're different people. It happens. So, anyways, moving on past all that stuff, right onto the next pair. So, side of the box over there, real quick, so you kind of see something what's going on in there, right? Now, this right here, this particular shoe is going to be the Brooks Adrenaline GTS 23 GTX. So many letters in there. Like, it's trying to keep it straight in your head, you know? But either way, so, and this is going to be, I don't know what colorway this is. It says Oyster Mushroom. All right, Oyster Mushroom. So there's that for you. Now, across the bottom of this here, right, what you're looking at down there, same sort of approach in a way, just a different execution than the previous one. Different kind of outsole, because again, made for not your standard terrain, right? Or not your standard situation, I should say. The terrain, I mean, it can rain anywhere, right? Waterproof, Gore Tex, you know, all that stuff. So either way, moving on past that though to the midsole here, the one thing you're saying, like in the other GTS I did recently, what was that, a glycerin? You know, you do have the guide rails and stuff, got all those things going on. Then on the interior, you have another thing as well, because they are on both sides. So that's where the GTS comes in, the go-to support. You know, it's there for support, keeping your feet straight so you don't go with getting all wobbly and whatnot. Because then it messes up your shins and your ankles and all that stuff, your knees or whatever. It's just not good. So either way, so that's kind of like the overall visual of what's going on here, right? Now, talk to you for a second about some things. Okay. So, this one right here is a weatherized shoe, okay? This one over here is the Gore Tex one. See, it's got the Gore Tex tag on there. That's kind of how you can tell, right? But either way, so I just want to hold these both up and make sure we're both on the same page. So while I'm talking, because last time they'll say like in this one and that one and this one and that one, using all those terms, right? Rather than like saying like the actual proper names of them and stuff, right? So either way, the weatherized ones, right, are generally just made for cooler weather, right? Kind of like, think like the winterized ones. Remember those, maybe you saw like the Jordan 8 winter shoes that I bought, like standard Jordan 8, just like with a little winter appeal to them, right? Kind of keeps you warmer on the inside. That's what's going on here, right? Now, when you look at this though, the Gore-Tex one, the bigger selling point of these being that they're listed anyways as being waterproof. How waterproof are they? I don't know. I haven't found that out yet, so that's something to be figured out later. But I'll just put that out there that that's kind of the difference or whatever, right? So if depending on what you're looking for, like as far as like what kind of situations you're going to be running around in, that's kind of where things are going to show up for you as far as which one you should pick up. Me, I would just get both, right? Because that's an option that I often have the ability to do. But that's not always a thing that makes sense, and that's not always a thing that everybody can just pull off, right? So I will tell you this. If I just wearing them, like, and I'll get into this in a little bit with like the sizing again, but just telling you right now, if I could only pick one, personally I'd kind of lean towards the weatherized one, just because it's not likely. One quick thing here. These are both running shoes, so I'm going to talk about this from a running perspective, right? So, like, I get that you can use these in normal day-to-day life, but I'm only talking about running right now. So, just know that. I would pick these, right? Because more than likely, I'm not running around in the rain, right? If I am, that's because it just happened out of nowhere and no one saw it coming, right? So, at most, usually, like, my issues with rain are usually like right after it, where like there's just still puddles around, which could be handy, sure, but you can also just like avoid them too, right? But it's far more likely that I'll be running when it's like cooler out, so that's why I say this one. Also, just because the way the upper is, this one's a little like more rigid and whatnot. This one's a little more flexible, so it's just overall a little bit more comfortable. And because I'm a big comfort guy, also this one kind of stands up over this one in my own personal opinion. So that's where I would stand if I was only to buy one thing. But I could see how a lot of people would side with like the Gore Tex as being overall more useful, and I won't dispute that. It's just like everyone lives their life in different ways, and the way I live mine just kind of leads me down this path, right? But I don't think you can go wrong with either one. So ultimately, if you're asking me what I would do, that's what I would do. But I would suggest to most people to, if you see one that clearly looks better to you, just get that one, right? Otherwise, if they're both looking very much even to you, just think about what situations you would find yourself in mostly and go from there. Because especially if you live in like, these are designed in Seattle, as they always say, very rainy out there, right? So maybe out there, maybe Gore-Tex makes more sense. I don't know. But anyway, so past that, I just want to put that out there up front, whatever, get that through. So, but I am going to talk about these things just a little bit, just enough so you can like get some pictures in there, because I mean this is still a review, so I want to at least gloss over things to some extent, right? And give you some close-ups. So these right here, we'll kick things off with the Ghost 16 Weatherized, right? That's what this one is. So all in all, it's pretty much like your standard construction and whatnot for the most part as far as looks and everything goes. I like how it's got like a lot of these extra little details just kind of like slipped in here, whatever, just to kind of give you like the winter vibe, you know what I'm saying? Like that whole winter aesthetic that comes with like this icy blue, and like it's got like this sort of weird design for like the upper where it just looks a little like, I don't know, looks a little frosty in a way, you know, a little blurry or something. Got the little rain droplet style things going on in certain areas of the visual too. So that's just kind of what's going on there. Then even the sock liner on the inside is looking pretty nice as far as like, you know, giving you that extra insulation, because again, weatherized shoes, right? So all in all, like these right here, I just also kind of like the way they look a little bit more, but that's just me. It's kind of a subjective thing, so I just throw it out there because again, my reviews do contain my opinions. It's just kind of how that works. I get that it's not going to match up with everybody's. Not everybody even wants it. But you could not listen, I guess. That is an option, though it'd be weird to like watch this and not listen to it, but I get it. You know, I watch TV with like sound off once in a while. It's a thing that happens. Now, moving on past that, though, talking about these over here, this is the Brooks Adrenaline GTS 23 GTX. So much brain power just to say that. But anyway, so this right here, right? It's not bad, right? Not at all. Again, I don't care for this visual as much, but I will say this. The Gore-Tex Adrenalines looked a lot better, in my opinion, than the Gore-Tex Brooks, or than the Gore-Tex Ghost 16 did. So that's kind of why I went this route. Also, I was curious to see about getting a pair of the Adrenalines, because I've heard good things about them. And I figured this would be a good way to kind of cover all bases when it comes to Brooks. And even though I don't like these as much overall, I will still say this. They don't look bad. Like, I've got no actual complaints about them. It's just sometimes you prefer one thing over the other. It's a pretty standard approach to the design. Looks like anything you would see on a normal running shoe, right? It doesn't make me think of any particular time frame of like or weather type of thing or anything like that. Just like a decent look, and I've got no complaints about it. I don't think anybody would have any real complaints about it. So it's just gonna be that. It's pretty plain, pretty simple, works out pretty well. So moving on past that, the one thing I have left to do is talk about some sizing and stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and knock that thing out. And then after that, after the sizing thing, if you leave, cool, I get it, but I'm gonna come back to some stuff about these possibly. So maybe don't leave, depending on how the sizing portion goes. Because sometimes I forget to say stuff, so that's why I'm just putting it out there now, because I'm pretty sure I'll forget. Either way, let's go ahead and knock out some sizing. I bought the Brooks Ghost 16 Weatherized in a true to size fit, which is a 9.5 for me, because I have a 9.5 foot, right? So, for me, this is working out pretty well. I've got no complaints about it. The dimensions of the shoe are good. If anything, like, sometimes you get a little curious when they say, oh, well, this is going to be built for cooler areas and stuff, cooler times. Like, is it going to be thicker? Is it going to, like, feel more snug because they had to, like, add some extra insulation in there? Honestly, like, no. Like, in this particular case, this one, for me, is working out still just fine. Got no complaints about that. You got a sort of a slim sort of build, because this is kind of like, you know, the Ghost 16s are made for running shoes, made as running shoes. So that's just going to be a factor, right? So it's not going to be like those glycerins I was talking about a minute ago. But all in all, pretty good. And the upper feels nice, right? It feels like you got a good bit more flexibility in here, at least right out of the box, than the Gore Tex, which makes sense because if you have extra layers to stop water from getting through, that just makes sense, right? Now, past that, though, as far as everything else goes, the midsole, right, walking around in these, my first thought was this might be the most uncomfortable Brooks shoe that I've ever worn. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not like saying Jordan's like the least comfortable Jordan I've ever worn. All of those are uncomfortable, so that would mean something. But all of the Brooks shoes are like actually pretty solid, right, for comfort. So it was just kind of coming in a little lower. But I think a lot of that is just because of like the outsole. Sometimes when you have those like trail type shoes or weather based type shoes, things like that, they just kind of feel a little weirder when you're walking in them. I don't think it's a factor of the midsole itself, because I've seen a lot of things with like the DNA Loft and all that stuff that have felt very similar. The Glycerin 21 Stealth Fit, same sort of thing, right? And it felt fine. So I think maybe it was more just the design of like that outsole there that was just kind of like throwing it off just a little bit, making it feel a little weird. But the thing is, when it comes down to it though, if you're going to be running in these, which is what they're made for, it was a negligible thing. And I feel like if you're running in them, your mind is going to be on something else, because it's probably, if you're using these when they're intended, going to be cold. And so you're probably going to be thinking about how like you're cold or something. So you probably won't really notice that. But I'd imagine there's probably still like on par with like standard Ghost comfort, right? It's just, again, walking around in some of these other things for the day, it's like, it just kind of throws your senses off just a little bit sometimes. So that's why I say all that stuff, to try to keep it straight. Anyway, so let's move on. This one right here, the Brooks Adrenaline GTS 23 GTX. I bought these in a size 9.5. It did not work out well, people. It did not. When I first put these on during the unboxing, I thought, like, okay, this seems okay right now, but maybe it'll be a problem when I stand up and walk around. That's what I was saying. Because I thought that these were like, figured if this is a 10 millimeter drop, if I'm walking in these, I might feel like I'm even closer to the front, which will make me feel like I have even less room. Turns out they are a 12 millimeter drop, which honestly just kind of made things worse, maybe. So yeah, once I took those first actual steps, I was like, oh, this is not for me. So I'm dealing with like the return situation right now, but I just wanted to get this review together and just kind of at least put that out there. Otherwise, like, half size up should be good for a lot of people at a minimum, depending on like your foot width and stuff, maybe a whole, but Yeah, I'm not normally one to have to go up a half, but this is one. It's been a while. Past that, the upper of the shoe and whatnot, right? So for that, I would say what you could do is just think about this. It is Gore-Tex. It's made to have water like resistant stuff and all that, waterproof stuff and all that. So you should expect it to be a little more rigid than certain other things. It's gonna, it's also gonna keep your feet a little warmer for that ways too. So there are some upsides to it. Comfort wise, walking around in these things, much like I was saying about the last pair, sometimes like you'll have like a different sort of outsole approach on the bottom, and that can make them feel a little bit different than, say, if I was walking around just like a standard Adrenaline shoe. So they didn't feel uncomfortable or anything like that. It was just something about them just felt a little off compared to like a lot of the other straight up Brooks running shoes that I've been wearing. But also those have had like varying levels of midsole technology and whatnot, and some sit high, some sit low. It's a lot of stuff to think about. But I think that since this is made for like a certain time of, like when you're running certain situations, I feel like you're going to be more focused on that, and something like that, like just minor changes in comfort or whatever, in that case, I feel like they won't be a problem. It'll just be something you can just toss to the side and move on, because this is going to be something you want if it's running time and you're out in the rain or running through like a trail maybe. This is just going to be a good thing to have. And in times like that, from what I've noticed even for myself, running on like trails and stuff, the comfort overall, you're wanting the traction. Like the comfort is fine. Sometimes you just want what you need in that moment. So there is that. Hopefully that makes some kind of sense. I mean, it may not have, but I don't know. I don't really watch this crap anyway, so I just hope for the best after I make it. But whatever. That's enough out of me. I've rambled on way too long. From me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, whatever it is, wherever you are. Here's the thing that I was supposed to say before. These right here, right? I'm dealing with the return situation on these, and I don't know how it's going to play out, because I told the Brooks people, I went onto the webpage to see like how can I do an exchange with Nike and stuff. Like you have the two options, you send the shoes back. When they receive it, they send you the new thing. Or you can just, buy a new one, send back the old one, do a return on your old one, all that stuff. But I wanted to just send this one back and then get it and then send me a new one. And the way their webpage made it sound, I was like, no, we don't do that. I was like, really? So I'm trying to like talk to the customer service people. I sent them an email or thing on the chat support yesterday. So I'm just kind of waiting to see how they want to handle this or whatever. So hopefully like they get back to me, like they're working with me on that. But otherwise, like if they don't, then cool, sure, whatever. Because either way, these are going back. That's why like if you see the tag in the video, that's why the tag is on there, right? Because I figured like I'm going to do this review, get this word out there, but I want to be transparent on the fact that like if you don't see these again, like ever on this channel, that's probably why, is that the return process did not go how I wanted it to go. Otherwise, everything that if you see me with something, I generally just keep everything that has ever been in any video here, right? It's just kind of how I am. I don't buy stuff and just return it. That's kind of, we don't do that. So anyways, just wanted to put that out there. So now it's out there. Later, people.